There we go. Should be going now. Good. Okay, good morning. Friday morning, yoga, 75-minute Hatha. So going to ask if you can get some blocks, if you have yoga blocks. Be incorporating the use of blocks. If you don't have blocks, you can grab a couple of books or something strong and sturdy, similar size, maybe even like a soup can or something like that. We'll be using those just to give additional height in some of our poses. Great. So we're going to go ahead and get started and ground ourselves and connect with our breath before we move into the physical aspects of the practice. So let's go ahead and find a comfortable seat. Last week I talked a little bit about the yams and niyams. Remember, these are two limbs of the eight-limbed path of classical yoga. There's 5 of each, yams and niyams, sort of defined as the external and internal ethics. And the second of the niyams is santosh. And this effectively translates as contentment, in a sense of internally being content. And we don't want to think of contentment as being happy. Happy is a very superficial, fleeting emotion. Contentment is about a sense of acceptance of what is, a sense of peacefulness, of peacefulness in reality as it exists. Last week I touched on the serenity prayer and that sense of being accepting of what is. So santosh is the outcome of that. It's that sense of contentment, we might describe it as. So we'll spend a few moments grounding, find a comfortable seat, feel the weight of the pelvis, the force of gravity really sinking you, and also again that additional lightness through the spinal column. So that beautiful polarity starts here with the pressing of the sits bones, the weight of the pelvis, and the upward trendiness through the spinal column, up right through the crown of the head, gently lifting up toward the ceiling. So there's not any sort of upward force, artificial force here, just allow that natural upward gravity, and also there's not any sort of collapse into the seat. There's a weight, but without letting go. So find this beautiful polarity, keeping the chin parallel to the floor. The gaze will be straight forward, so notice that the eyes have a tendency to look down or look up or to one side. Bring the eyes directly forward, and now closing the eyes if that's comfortable, and bring the awareness to the breath. On the topic of contentment, one of the niyams, an aspect of one of the limbs of classical yoga, I wanted to share one of the Yoga Sutras, one of the aphorisms of the Yoga Sutras that a number of my fellow yogis really enjoy chanting this one. There's a beautiful chant version of this one, but I'm not singing it. I'll share with you it's the 33rd aphorism of the first book of the Yoga Sutras. The Sanskrit, beautiful. I think that's why so many people have put it to a verse and sing it. Maitra karuna mudite upekshanam sukha dukkha punya apunya vishanayam bhavana chitta prasadanam. Effectively translates into English as it is through the cultivation of compassion, cultivation of joy, And then also indifference to, or a non-attachment to pleasure and pain, or virtue and vice. It's a sense of non-attachment, which is where our consciousness becomes serene, peaceful, content, that sense of acceptance. So this passage in the Yoga Sutras really helps to remind us, how can we move to contentment? If I'm not feeling content, first of all, my mind might be focusing on the past of how things have been, or projecting into the future and creating fears of what possibly might be, and I'm no longer focused in the present moment. And by being anchored in the present moment and cultivating a sense of compassion and joy, not to be confused with happiness. Happiness is a brief, fleeting emotion. One can even experience a sense of joy in other emotions, such as grief. Those might seem contradictory, but joy is that sense of peacefulness with what is. At any rate, allowing that sense of cultivating compassion and joy assists in leading us to that sense, that state of serenity that we touched on last week with the serenity prayer. So while we sit for a few minutes, focusing the awareness inward, focusing on the breath, keep cultivating that sense of compassion and that sense of joy. Keep feeling the rooted nature of the sits bones, the lift of the spinal column, and paying attention to the breath. Observe on the inhale how there's this upward lift of the chest and an expansion of the barrel of the chest in 4 directions. And on the exhale, reversing that. Remembering the Yoga Sutras, the first 3 passages remind us to have that sense of yoga, that sense of peaceful contentment, is to be in the present moment. And focusing on the breath really allows us to anchor into that present. So at times, whether sitting in this meditation, or whether we're in our physical aspects of the practice, or off of your mat, yoga in real life, see that when the mind gets distracted and pulled away, bring the awareness back to the breath. Anchor back into the present moment. Do a little bit of pranayama here, moving vital life force, breath work in this case. And what I want you to do to the level that's comfortable for you is slowly start to increase an inhale to either a count of 3 or 4 breaths, whatever works for you. And the momentary pause following up before commencing the exhale, count of 2. And then on the exhale, the same count or length as the inhale. So it's either 3 or 4, whichever you've done. And then that momentary pause in between 2 breaths. So it's similar to the box breath. If you envision a box, on the inhale, maybe going up the left-hand side of a box, counting to 3 or 4. Going now across the top of the box for a count of 2. Coming down the right-hand side as you exhale, counting 3 or 4. And then the bottom of the box, moving back to the left-hand side, that natural pause of a couple of counts. Again, repeating this coming up the left-hand side. So like a box, it helps to keep the awareness and breath focus on the length. So find a comfortable pace, whether 3 or 4 count for the inhale and exhale. And then half or 2/3 of that length for the pause in between. We'll just do a few cycles of that, maybe 5 or 6 more cycles at your pace. And just one final cycle now. And now just allowing the breath to return to its natural pace. Let's go ahead and bring the palms pressing gently together. Bring the thumbs toward heart center at Anjali Mudra. Feel as you're gently pressing the palms together. And at the same time, almost feel as if you're trying to pull the scapula apart from one another. So there's almost like a paradox that you're pressing and pulling, the ripple effect of trying to pull the scapula apart in the back body. And so there's a sense of trying to pull the palms apart at the same time you press them together. Beautiful. When you're ready, go ahead and stretch the arms out to the side at shoulder height. Palms are facing down. Reach and extend the fingertips. Now rotate at the shoulders so the palms face up and inhale the arms up overhead. Reach and extend. Let's go ahead and rotate at the shoulders again so the palms face out and begin to lower the arms down toward the ground on the exhale. Fingertips coming down toward the ground. Once the tips reach the ground, rotate again, the shoulders, palms face up. Inhale the arms up overhead. Just a little bit of work here to lubricate the shoulder joint here. Rotate the palms out on the exhale, lowering the arms toward the ground as you continue reaching, extending the arms out of the socket. Once again, fingertips on the ground, inhale the arms overhead as the palms face upward. Few more cycles. You know, it's interesting, one of the beautiful things science has learned in the last 150 years that how impactful the breath is on our biochemistry. Changing our breath changes us internally. From a scientific standpoint, the oxygen saturating through into the blood system changes us biochemically. So if you think what is often told to young children when they're really anxious and nervous is, calm down and breathe, because it has an instantaneous effect on our psychosocial well-being. Beautiful. Next time the arms arrive up overhead, pausing there, reach and extend the fingertips. We're going to rotate the torso toward the right thigh. Let's lower the arms down. Left hand to the right thigh. Bring the right arm close into the spine as the fingertips come to the floor. Pressing through that right hand to give additional lift through the spinal column, gazing over the right shoulder. As always, modify the practice as appropriate for you at any point throughout this class. If you need to adjust, either backing up or going deeper, it's your practice, and you ensure you attend to your own individual needs. Following the next exhale, we're going to inhale the arms up overhead, bringing the torso back to midline. As we exhale and coming to the left hand side, right hand down to the left leg, left hand close into the spine behind. Again, press through the fingertips or palm of the left hand to give additional lift as you root through the sits bone to extend through the spinal column. Slight gaze over the left shoulder. Starting to cultivate the drishti gaze. It's a very soft focus. Once again, inhale the arms up overhead as you come back to center. We're going to take the right hand down to the ground alongside of us and coming toward a C curve. Reach and extend the left fingertips toward the wall on the right hand side. Keep the left sit bone rooted down. Feel an opening and broadness through the intercostal muscles of the rib cage as you reach and broaden. Reach the hand, broaden the side of the body. Option to turn the head gently side to side here. Make sure you don't collapse into the right hand. We're not falling into it. We're just allowing it to brace and prop ourselves. If you practice in a tradition where the gaze normally looks up under the arm toward the ceiling, feel free to take that option. It's certainly not for everyone, so if you're not accustomed to do that, then just keeping the head neutral with the spine. We're going to inhale the torso back upright and raise the right arm up to meet the left. And now as we lower the left hand down to the ground, we come to a C curve on the opposite side. Again, reach and extend the right fingertips to the wall on the left. Don't collapse into the left hand, and ensure that right sit bone anchored down to the ground. And again, option to turn the gaze, or moving the head side to side, or turn the gaze up toward the ceiling. Remember, always modifying what feels right for your body. Yoga is not about how a pose looks, it's how it feels for you. So it doesn't matter if the head is turned up to the ceiling, if that doesn't feel right for the neck. Inhale the torso upright again, raising the left arm up to meet the right. We're going to go ahead and lower the arms down behind us and interlace them to Yoga Mudra. So as they come back behind, interlace the fingers, thumbs near the small of the back, and then as you lift the arms back behind you, lead the sternum forward here. Bringing the shoulders together, the scapula and the back body. Turn to the side here. You can take the chin off the chest and gaze up to the ceiling. Beautiful. Now as you release the hands, coming back to neutral on the sits bones, take the arms out at shoulder height, opposite directions. Inhale the arms up overhead again. Now we're going to bend the right arm at the elbow and bring the palm on to the left scapula. And then bend the left arm and bring the left palm onto the right elbow. So notice the humerus really coming straight up toward the ceiling of the right arm and gently pulling with the left palm this right arm toward the left hand side. Being gentle. This is the position of cow face hands, or Gomukhasana, that sometimes when we do binds, you see we interlace the hands this way. This is just working on the right hand side to open up that arm and keep that lift upward here and gently pulling over. We'll go ahead and lift both arms up overhead. This time now as we lower the left hand onto the right scapula, bend the right arm and bring the right palm onto the left elbow. Again, lifting that left humerus up toward the ceiling and gently pulling on the arm toward the wall on the right. Beautiful. Just holding a couple more breaths there. As you release the right hand, straighten the arm and bring the left arm up overhead. Let's bring the arms down to cactus arms now. They're at shoulder height, bent at 90-degree angle. Take the elbows slightly toward the wall behind you. Again, notice the scapula come together slightly in the back body, the broadening of the front chest. On an exhale, we're going to arch the belly, bring the elbows together and tuck the chin. Inhale, take the elbows apart, lead forward with the sternum, slight gaze up to the ceiling. Again, exhale, bringing the elbows together, hollow out the belly, tuck the chin. Inhale, lead the sternum forward as you take the elbows apart. A few more cycles, flow with the rhythm of your breath. So as you exhale, you rock back on the pelvis, arch the back, tuck the chin, elbows together. Inhale, coming forward on the pelvis now as you lead forward with the heart center. Take the arms out to the side. Few more cycles. Beautiful. The next time you arrive with the arms out to the side, we'll pause here, sitting squarely on the sits bones. We're going to let the arms come down toward the legs. And now we're going to walk the hands forward as we start to hinge at the hip crease and coming into a forward fold. We're starting to lower the forehead down toward the mat, bending the elbows, forearms resting on the mat. See if you can keep the sits bones somewhat connected to the ground. We don't want to rock entirely off the seat. And lowering down as far as you can. Some of you, perhaps the head rests on the ground. Otherwise, you might like to bring stacked fists or stacked palms to rest the forehead. Keep extending the torso out of the pelvis as you lead forward in your forward fold. And we'll walk ourselves back up to seated. You can use tented fingers to prop yourself back up. We're going to go ahead and move to tabletop position now. So hands and knees. Remove any block or bolster you may have been sitting on. You can always put a blanket under the knees or double up the mat. And again, flexion, extension of the spinal column, cat and cow now as we tuck the chin, arch the back on the exhale, and the inhale, take the chin off the chest. Soften the belly, gazing forward. Few cycles flowing with your breath. Exhale to cat. Inhale to cow.
come back to neutral tabletop position, we're going to stretch out the right leg behind us with the toes tucked. Crown of the head still reaching forward. Squarely the shoulders directly above the wrist. Press through all 5 fingertips. We're coming into a plank now, so take the left leg back behind you. One straight line running through the body. If you start to tire, don't lift the hips higher. Rather, you can drop the knees. Keep lifting out of the palms, activating the shoulder here. So modification to drop the knees rather than lifting the hips. Crown of the head extending forward, pressing through the toes, lifting out of the palms. You're in charge to come out when you need to. Beautiful, let's come to a rest. We're going to go ahead and drop the knees, come to child's pose. Sink the buttocks back to the heels. Lower the forehead to the mat. Arms can be stretched out in front of you. If they are, allow the forearms to rest so that the elbows come to the ground. If you want to take full child's pose, you can bring the arms alongside the body, fingertips facing back as you rest the back of the hand near the ankles. Remember, always an option to come to alternate resting pose if child's pose isn't available for you, keeping the femur perpendicular to the ground, so hips directly over the knees, lowering the forehead to the mat. There's always a variation you can take, sometimes known as puppy pose, if child's pose isn't available. If you've taken full child's pose with the arms alongside the body, go ahead and bring them out in front of you, stretched out in front, extended child's pose, forehead still resting on the mat. Now as you press through the palms, you lift the elbows off the mat, sink the buttocks back, you can slide the hands a little bit further forward, really feeling some openness and activation through the upper arm and through the side body. Come onto tented fingers and walk the hands off the left-hand side of the mat. Keeping both sits bones anchored back. You can either remain here with the arms lifted and on tented fingers. If you want additional sensation, lowering the palms down to the mat. And if you want even more sensation, you take the right palm on the top back left hand. Keep anchoring the sits bone back. If the hands are stacked, unstack them. Come back onto tented fingers. Walk the torso back to center midline. And then come into the right hand side as you walk the fingertips off the right hand side of the mat. Sink the left sit bone back. And then repeat as you did on the other side. Either remain on tented fingers, drop onto the palms, or bring the left palm onto the back of the right hand. Keeping the forehead down on the ground. If the palms are stacked, unstack them, come up to tented fingers, walk back to midline, center of the mat. Drop the palms flat. We're preparing for downward dog. As you press through the palms, come up with the buttocks off the heels, tuck the toes, keep the knees bent, and lift the hips high into down dog. First downward dog of this practice, go ahead and warm it up by walking out the dog. Drop one heel as you bend the opposing knee. And slowly, half that speed, moving from side to side. As you drop one heel, observe you're going to cross the midline of the body, pressing more into the opposing palm. And we'll come to a neutral four-legged dog. Lift out of the palms, lift the hips higher. Let's go ahead and raise the right leg out behind us, three-legged dog. Keep the hips squared off and parallel. Lift the heel higher to the ceiling and the sole of the foot further toward the wall behind you. Lower that leg down. We'll repeat on the opposite side. Raise the left leg up behind you. And lowering that leg down. Now as you raise the right leg up behind you, you can stack the hips or open the hips. Bring the right hip over top of the left. Now the right leg toes turn toward the wall on your right. Keep the shoulders squared off to the front edge of the mat. Option to bend that right knee and bring the right heel toward the left buttock. Squaring off the shoulders to the front of the mat. You can gently create some circular movement in the hip here. Now bring the leg back to straight, bring it back to squared off hips. That leg down, repeat on the opposite side. Left leg up behind you, just squared off to start. Then stack the hips. Toes of the left foot turn toward the wall on the left. And option to bend the knee and bring the heel toward the opposite buttock. For a few breaths there, holding it. And then perhaps some circular movements in the hip. Notice the entire leg moves. We're just, again, moving that ball and socket joint of the femur in the hip joint. Straighten the left leg, square off the hips again, lower the left leg down to the ground. We're going to go ahead and raise the right leg out behind us, three-legged dog. We're going to come forward to three-legged plank, shoulders directly over the wrist, tucked, bent knee tucked under the chest. Stretch back to three-legged dog. This time as you come forward, right knee to the right wrist. Stretch back, three-legged dog. Now come across midline, right knee to the outside of the left wrist. And three-legged dog. Lower that right leg. Repeat on the opposite side. Lift the left leg high behind you. We're coming forward 3 times to three-legged plank. Bring the bent left knee underneath the chest, in between the hands. Stretch back to three-legged dog. This time as you bring it forward, you come on the same side, left knee to the outside of the left wrist. Stretch back, three-legged dog. And now third time coming across midline, left leg to the outside of the right wrist. Stretch back, three-legged dog. Lower the leg. And we're going to take a 5-breath rest. So you can either choose to stay in down dog for your rest, or drop the knees, buttocks back to the heels, child's pose for 5 breaths. If you're in child's pose, coming back up to down dog. Let's go ahead and raise the right leg out behind us. And as you bend the knee, this time we're going to plant the right sole of the foot near the right thumb mound at the front of the mat. So high runner's lunge. The back foot toes are tucked. Lift the left leg high off the ground. Extend forward through the crown of the head. Make sure you're not bearing the weight of the torso on the right leg. So there's going to be an option here as we inhale the arms overhead You can drop the knee if you prefer. So either come into equestrian pose if the knee is dropped, or warrior one lunge. Virabhadrasana 1. Reach and extend the fingertips up overhead, separating the arms wide. Scapula coming together in the back body. So slight external rotation of the humerus. For our twist, we're going to give options, either prayer twist or just lowering the hands to the knee and small of the back. If you want to come to prayer twist, bring the hands to Anjali Mudra. And then we're going to bring the left elbow to the outside of the right knee. The palms will press together and the right elbow up toward the ceiling. If you prefer not to come down and involve prayer, you just bring the left palm to the outside of the right thigh and the right hand to the small of the back. In either variation, ensure you're turning the torso. We're feeling a beautiful twist in the spinal column here. We'll bring the hands back to heart center. Go ahead and drop the palms. Take the right leg back to meet the left. High plank position, 2 breaths. And press back to down dog. Raise the left leg up behind you. 3-legged dog. Bend the left knee. Plant the sole of the left foot by the left thumb mount. Square off the hips, high runner's lunge. Lift the right leg, the shin high off the mat as the right toes are pressing firmly. Crown of the head reaches forward. Again, don't let the torso collapse into the left leg. And again, coming either to a warrior one lunge or equestrian. If you want to drop that back knee, that's an option. You come into equestrian pose. Hold here. Lift the arms high, external rotation, scapula come together in the back body, palms are facing one another. And we'll come down to our twist. So again, either drop the palms under the thigh and small of the back, or revolves prayer. Both of these options can be done with the knee down. Bring the hands back to heart center. Lower the palms. Left leg back to meet the right. High plank position, 2 breaths. And we'll take a rest, 5 breaths. Either press back to down dog or drop the knees, buttocks back to the heels, forehead to the mat. 5 breath rest. And 5. If you're in child's pose, lift up to down dog. And let's all just drop to the knees for a moment here, sinking back on the heels. So we're going to come to side plank pose. The full variation, I'm just going to quickly recap for those who don't attend this Friday class regularly and need to have a walk through it. If you're a regular practitioner and want to go into side plank, feel free to do it at your pace. Full side plank, one arm, palm directly in the center of the mat, shoulder almost directly over the wrist, taking both legs back behind you and lifting the hips high, and the other arm comes up toward the ceiling. You're on the edges of the feet here. So that's our full plank. The modifications, there's two variations. With the first modification, you keep, in this case we'll start on the right side, right knee directly underneath the right hip, take the left leg out behind you on the inner edge of the foot, pressing through the right palm, open the left arm overhead. Variation 1. The other variation for the right hand side is you bring the left foot up to midsection of the mat, turn the foot perpendicular to the long edge of the mat, press through the right palm, and the right leg comes back underneath on the edge here. This just creates a little more triangulated support in the body, lifting high with the left arm. So if the first variation feels a little unsteady for you, you can bring one leg out to the side. For those who've been in full plank from the beginning, just keep breathing and come out when you need to. And whichever variation you're in, we'll go ahead and lower the raised hand down, come back to center, full plank. If you were in supported plank, you might be down in tabletop. And we'll prepare for the opposite side. Bring the left palm directly underneath the face. Either full plank, rolling onto the knife edge of the feet, raise the right arm, or modify as needed. Keep lifting the hips higher. Notice that the torso starts to sag. Lift the hips. And lower that upper arm down, either full plank or table. And we'll drop down to our knees if you're raised up, tabletop position. Sit back temporarily into thunderbolt or hero's pose. So I mentioned early on in the class, if you have blocks, we're going to use them now. If you don't, maybe a book or like a soup can or something several inches tall here. So we're going to bring whatever you're utilizing to the outside edge of the mat near the front. Actually, we're going to take a different tack. Bring whatever it is on the right hand side of your mat, kind of in parallel with your legs here. So we're going to lift up to stand on the knees. Inhale the arms out to the side. And rotate the palms, bring them up overhead. Reach and extend here. Lift the sternum higher. So we really want to feel the torso lifting right out of the pelvis. Preparatory pose for actually a back bend, camel pose. Let's just bring the arms back down to the side. Now we're going to take our left leg out to the side, extend it, foot facing forward. For most people, you want the hips squared off and parallel toward the front edge of the mat. If you have space, probably only 10 to 15% of the population actually has this available to them. But if you're able to turn the leg out and the toes point away from you, where the foot remains flat on the ground with the hips squared off, I don't have that shape in my anatomy, but that's an option if your body is designed such. Otherwise, rooting through the foot, toes facing forward. Arms again out to the side. Now you have your block or can or whatever on your right hand side. We're going to lower the right hand down to that surface. Reach and extend the left arm up overhead. Keep pressing the pelvis forward. And then bring that left arm alongside the ear. Reach and extend the left fingertips toward the wall on your right. Press the pelvis forward. Press through the left foot. Lift out of the right hand. Although it's propped onto either your block or your can, you're not collapsing down into it. You're extending that arm and lifting out of it. As we inhale our way back up to center, we'll lower the left hand to the left leg and reach the right arm directly up overhead or slightly arcing over to the left hand side. Again, opening, similar to our C curve near the beginning of the class. Broadness through the right hand side of the body
intercostal muscles really activated here as you spread the rib cage wide. As we inhale ourselves back upright again, lowering the right hand down to the block, left arm alongside the ear, hips pressing forward. Modification, this is a variation of half moon. You can raise the left foot off the ground. Really noticing, if you choose that option, that there's a lot of activation in the left hip flexor. If the foot's raised, lower it down and inhale ourselves back to the second part of the pose. Left hand on the left thigh, reach and extend the right arm toward the left. Inhale ourselves back up, arms overhead. As we lower the arms down to the hips, we'll bring that left leg in. Moving your prop, whatever you have, over to the left-hand side. We're going to repeat this cycle on the opposite leg. So go ahead and take your right leg out to the extended to the right-hand side. Again, most of us toes pointing forward as you're rooting down through the foot. Hips are facing squarely forward here. Take the arms out to the side. Turn the palms up and over, facing overhead as you raise the arms. And we'll start to bring the torso to the left-hand side as we lower the left hand down onto our prop. And the right arm can reach directly up overhead to begin, pressing the hips forward, and then option to straighten the arm, bring it alongside the right ear. So one long line running from the right foot, pressing firmly on the ground, extending the right arm fingertips toward the wall on the left-hand side. Keep bringing the hips forward. Don't collapse into the left hand. It's just bracing and propping you. So inhalers, torso upright, arms overhead. Bring the right hand down to the right side. Either again, bring the left fingertips directly up overhead or slightly arcing over toward the right hand side. Left fingertips reach to the wall, toward the wall on the right. Again, feeling that lift coming right from the waist, the entire side body here on the left hand side, extending with the fingertips reaching. Coming back to the first side, second time, windmill the arms to center, left hand down to the block, right arm alongside the ear. Keep pressing the hips forward, and an option for a modified half moon pose. Lift the right foot off the ground if that feels appropriate. Otherwise, just keep it down on the ground. Really activates the hip flexor. So be gentle. There's no need to push ourselves. Remember, Yoga Sutras remind us of sweet and steady pose. We'll inhale ourselves back upright, lowering the right hand down to the right side. Again, either lift the fingertips up or over as you arc slightly. Keep focusing the awareness on the breath. Keep bringing that ever-present awareness. Inhale yourself back up, right arm to meet the left, lower the hands down to the hips, and bring the right knee in. So we're going to come into a little bit of a back bend here, but I want us to remember to focus more on the upward lift. So as we prepare for a modified camel pose, we're still standing directly up on our knees. The toes can either be tucked behind you or resting the shoelaces of the feet on the ground. We're going to take the palms behind us, rest them on the small of the back, fingertips facing down, and bring the elbows and shoulders toward one another, closer in. And as you press the palms into the small of the back, lift the sternum
up toward the ceiling as you gently lower the head back slightly. Don't let it collapse. And we're not collapsing in the low back, we're lifting the torso out of the pelvis, the sternum reaching up toward the ceiling. The beautiful thing about back bends is they're also heart openers, so we're really broadening the front chest, opening the heart. As you keep pressing through the low back, now bring yourself back upright to neutral, chin parallel to the floor, releasing the hands. And let's go ahead and lower down to child's pose. Sink the buttocks back to the heels, extend forward, lower the forehead down to the mat or onto stacked fists. You can also utilize a prop like your block to rest the forehead. And also another beautiful variation, if you're used to doing child's pose, you're certainly welcome to come to alternate resting pose, keeping the hips directly over the knees, lowering the forehead to the mat. Few breaths here. Really soaking in and integrating what's transpired so far in the practice. Two more breaths. And we'll exit there by coming up to down dog. And either walk the feet forward to the hands at the front of the mat or hop forward, hanging forward fold. Bend the knees, belly resting on the thighs, arms hanging heavy out of the shoulder sockets like empty coat sleeves. And we'll do a ragdoll upward as you root squarely through the feet. Rise to stand and keep the chin tucked to the chest. Knees are bent. Unfurl the vertebra one at a time. The arms are hanging very heavy out of their shoulder sockets. As you move up towards standing slowly, eventually the chin comes off the chest as the last part. Mountain pose, squarely rooted through the four corners of the feet. And then let's open the shoulder sockets here, rotating the arm bones so the palms face forward. Notice that broadness through the front body, shining the heart forward. Excellent. And relaxing the arms. We're going to go ahead and come toward Warrior Two. So if you're standing at the front edge of your mat, root through the right foot, take the left foot back behind you. So we want that forward knee directly over the forward ankle. More weight is on the outer edge of the back foot here. The torso is upright, perpendicular to the floor. So just observe if it's starting to lean a bit forward here. You want to bring it perpendicular to the floor, take the arms out at shoulder height, reach and extend the fingertips in opposite direction, Warrior Two. Gaze over the forward middle finger. Feel a broadness through the body, the front chest as you bring the arms in opposite direction. The clavicles almost feel like they're coming apart from one another. More weight on the outer edge of the back foot. Make sure you're not crunching into the toes of the forward foot. Remember to modify. If you're not feeling much, you can sink a little more deeply. If you've gone beyond your edge and you're starting to struggle with your breath and labored breath, see if you can back up a bit, come up a little bit higher. So you always are free to modify to that comfort level, the edge. We'll come to Exalted Warrior, rotate the right palm, raise it overhead, drop the back palm onto the left thigh. And similar to how we're opening our shoulders at the beginning of the practice, if you're accustomed to taking a bind, Gomukhasana, you can bend that right arm rested on the scapula, and bring the left arm up underneath and interlace the fingers. Just an option, cow face hands. Otherwise, maintain the arms in their natural, regular position. And we'll come back to warrior two. And pivoting on that back foot, go ahead and spring off of it to come forward to mountain. We'll repeat on the opposite side. Root down through the left foot, take the right leg back behind you, lining up for warrior two, squarely rooted through the four corners of the left foot, more weight on the outer edge of the back foot. Left knee has to be directly above the left ankle, torso perpendicular to the ground. Take the arms out at shoulder height, reach and extend in opposite direction. Turn the gaze over the forward, outstretched arm, soft, gentle drishti gaze. Breathing here. Exalted warrior, rotate that forward palm, raise it overhead, drop the back palm onto the back thigh, either holding the arms here or taking a bind if you're called to. Gomukhasana, bending that left arm and bringing the palm to the shoulder or scapula, bending the right arm to bring the back of the hand up the arm and interlacing the fingers if that feels appropriate. And we'll bring ourselves back to warrior two. Pivot on the back foot, spring forward, mountain pose. So for our standing balance pose, weight-bearing pose, if you have your blocks or cans, after we did gate and earlier in the pose, let's see if we can come to half moon. So, half moon pose is standing high on one leg, opening the hip of the other leg out to the side. I'll demonstrate here for you, so you can utilize your blocks if you like. And I'm going to root down through my left foot, take the right leg out behind me, toes are pointing down to the ground to begin with, and then I stack the hips like we did in our down dog. Now the toes go more toward the wall on the side, and then opening the right shoulder out to the side, lifting that arm overhead. You can also keep it alongside the leg. You really want to activate in the hip flexor here, hugging the muscles to the bone all the way down, dorsiflexion in the foot, micro bend in the standing leg, crown of the head reaches forward, sole of the foot behind reaches to the wall behind. So you might recognize we did a modified version of this on our knees, if you chose to lift the foot off the ground. Beautiful. We'll go ahead and lower the right hand down, bring the hips back to center, root the right foot down. As you take the left leg out behind you, repeating on the opposite side, stack the hips low, turn the toes of the left foot to the wall opposite you, raising the left arm, either rested on the thigh or bring it overhead. Again, crown of the head reaches forward, sole of the left foot reaches to the wall behind you. If you have space, or maybe longer arms than I do, the right fingertips might come down to the ground. Beautiful. Lowering that left arm down, bring the hips back to parallel. Lower the left foot down, and ragdoll up to standing. Beautiful. Excellent. Let's go ahead and move down toward the mat. And we'll come to a comfortable seat as we make our way down. So just coming to staff pose, walk the flesh off the sits bones, legs are stretched out in front of you. Really activate the legs, so hug the muscles to the bone. Dorsiflexion, toes are pointing up. There's so much activation, you might even notice perhaps the heels lift slightly off the ground. If I relax my legs, see my heels hit, activate the muscles, hug them to the bone, notice that they lift slightly. Bring the arms alongside the body, pressing down into the palms or maybe it's the tented fingers to give additional lifts through the spinal column. So I'm lifting higher, crown of the head reaches to the ceiling, chin parallel. Engage action in the muscles, hugging them to the bone. Focusing on the breath. And we'll go ahead and relax that. So we're going to move down toward our backs. If you have a block, go ahead and bring that in. If you don't have a block, if you do have a blanket handy, that's an option as well. We're going to be coming into sort of a modified supported bridge. So as you lay down on your back, soles of the feet flat on the ground with the knees bent. And if you have an appropriate block, you might not want to use a soup can here, it might not be very comfortable, but either a block or even a folded blanket, raise the hips and rest that underneath the sacrum. Resting the sacrum down into the block or a folded blanket. Might not get as much height here, but it's elevating the hips a little bit higher than the shoulders. Then we'll take the soles of the feet off the ground, the knees still bent. Shin bones might be perpendicular to the ceiling. And then straighten the legs up toward the ceiling. So we're just giving a little bit of opportunity to counter gravity, allowing the weight of gravity to sink the blood down here. Normally speaking, our heart is having to pump really strongly to bring blood all the way back up from our extremities. So minor inversion. If you have a strong practice or steady practice of doing an inversion, you can move to that inversion of your choice if you prefer at this point. I'm just going to spend a couple of moments here just allowing the weight of our sacrum to sink into the blanket or block. If it's too much to keep the legs straight, you can always again bend them. And we'll go ahead and bend the knees. Go ahead and lower the feet to the ground. And maybe windshield wiper the legs from side to side. And it might feel better to remove that block or blanket if you had put one underneath the sacrum here. Gentle windshield wipering of the legs side to side. So as you bring the legs back to center, let's go ahead and cross the right leg over top of the left, very deeply like you were sitting in a chair. Take the arms out in a T formation, and let's just drop the legs over to the left-hand side, slight gaze over the right shoulder. Whenever our neck is turned, the gaze is over a shoulder, bring that back first. Bring it back to center. Then raise your legs up. Uncross the legs and swap it out. Left leg over top of the right. And now we'll drop them over to the right-hand side, gazing over the left shoulder. So you really can do either side. I mean, in this case, we're dropping them the right. You could drop them to the left and gaze over the right shoulder. It's just working slightly different aspects of the muscles in the hip joint. Head back to center first, raising the legs back up. Go ahead and uncross them, coming to goddess pose here. Soles of the feet together, knees splaying out to the side. Perhaps you know this pose as butterfly. Again, option to bend the arms and rest the palms on the belly. And just observe the breath and see how it fills the belly, expanding outward. Lifting the belly higher, perhaps the palms separating, fingertips separating. On an exhale, as the belly recedes, the fingertips might come together again. Just observe observing that lovely flow of life-sustaining breath. We're going to go ahead and bring the knees up together toward one another. Take the soles of the feet to the outside edges of the mat. The knees are falling in toward one another. And just notice a little bit of counter movement in the hip here from our goddess pose. You walk the feet in toward one another, knees are still bent. Go ahead and raise the feet off the ground as you hug the knees in toward the chest. You can either remain stationary here in a supine balasana, reclined child pose, or perhaps gently rocking side to side. And then you might want to open the knees out a little bit, just a little bit more relaxation for the hips. Open the knees out, bringing them back together. A couple more times. And then we're going to prepare for Shavasana, final resting pose. The most important pose of an asana practice. So feel free to grab an article of clothing, like a sweater or socks, so that you can feel a sense of comfort and ease, and really want to minimize the potential of feeling a sort of draft. As we prepare to come down, lying flat on our back in Shavasana, the legs will be stretched out in front of us. Unless you're feeling any tightness or tension in the low back, you can either rest the legs on a bolster, or even putting some blocks underneath them, or resting the soles of the feet flat on the ground with the knees bent, if that feels nice for the low back. In the traditional version of Shavasana, legs stretched out in front of us, feet are splaying outward, arms alongside the body, about 15 degrees off center, resting on the back of the palms, back of the hands, so that the palms face up toward the ceiling. See if you can rest more on the occipital ridge than the back of the head. So that might mean just gently lifting the head an inch or two off the ground. Tuck the chin slightly as you elongate the back line of the neck, lowering the head back down on the occipital ridge. This creates a greater sense of openness through our trachea and also the Sushumna channel. So as you rest for a few minutes here in Shavasana, really feel a sense of full and complete letting go, a complete sense of relaxation and ease, grounding, sinking into the ground. So in our asana practice, we do a lot of activation of muscles. Right now we're looking for the complete opposite of that. The complete letting go. Really anchoring into the parasympathetic nervous system. Scan the awareness through the body. Just observe if you find any areas that you might be holding some tightness or tension. Any area where you might still have a sense of gripping or activation of the muscles. Sometimes it's surprising that the very tiny micro muscles are still activated. Or maybe the mouth is still activated. Maybe we're clenching the jaw closed.
Maybe we're activating the muscles of our tongue by pressing it into the roof of the mouth. Can you let the tongue relax? Sometimes when we have the eyes closed, we may have a tendency to squeeze them closed a little more than needed. Can you let them rest? Just gently close. Make sure we're not activating the micro muscles of the eyelids, the corner of the eye. Or even those tiny muscles that actually move the eyeball. Are they activated in any way? Let that relax. Let any expression on the face just wash away. And with one deep breath, starting to bring some awareness and vitality back into the physical form. And starting to make some small, subtle, quiet movements. Maybe wiggling the fingers and toes. Or perhaps starting to rotate the wrists and ankles. Just moving in any way that is supportive to bring some energizing sensation back into the body. And now finally hugging the knees into the chest. Gentle rocking side to side. As you now land on the right hand side in a fetal position. As you stretch out your upper leg and pressing into the upper arm to bring yourself upright to seated. We'll take a moment to close our practice. Feel the connection and rooted nature of the sits bones and lift through the spinal column. Notice these very unusual times we're in, and quite unprecedented for our generation. Some people have really been finding it challenging and difficult. It's creating a sense of sorrow and sadness. I want to share a reading from Jalaluddin Mevlana Rumi, as most people know just by the mononym Rumi, one of his sayings that I think is such a beautiful reminder to us about, especially as we are in spring and seeing buds blossoming and blooming after a long cold winter. He says, sorrow prepares you for joy. It violently sweeps out everything out of your house so that new joy can find space to enter it. It shakes the yellow leaves from the bough of your heart so that fresh green leaves can grow in their place. It pulls up the rotten roots so that new roots hidden beneath have room to grow. Whatever sorrow shakes from your heart, far better things will take their place. Spring reminds us of that hopefulness of new energy, that rebirth, everything that's died through the fall and into the winter, springing back to life. Let's close our practice by bringing the palms pressing together, bring the thumbs toward heart-centered Anjali Mudra. May you feel joy and contentment in your heart, and compassion and love. May you shine this forward to the entire world. In my lineage of Amrit Yoga, we close the practice with the words Jai Bhagwan, meaning may the spirit be victorious. Jai Bhagwan. Thank you for joining. Look forward to seeing you again next Friday. I'm also here on Mondays doing a gentle Hatha flow class. So I invite you to join along with that. You can always amp it up if you're feeling like a more physical practice. Be well, stay safe. Enjoy your Easter.